podcast of the Jacksonville Public Library.
I'm Jenna.
And I'm Hurley. We're talking food today.
Food.
My favorite thing.
Me too.
What's your nutrition like, Jenna? What you eating?
It's a little all over the place, you know, because I'm trying to eat pretty healthy, but I'm not going to turn down, some chocolate.
Right. You're not going to deny yourself the things you love most.
Right. So during the week, especially for lunch at work, I really try to make at least 2 salads for lunch a week. Then I feel like I'm kind of eating healthy.
And you do salads. You have
right.
a bowl of greens.
Yes.
You make fun of me for having tiny salads.
Right. Because lettuce, even I do, iceberg lettuce has no nutritional value.
Right.
It's all water.
Mm-hmm.
So I always do just spinach because that has a little nutrition in it. But it's not a lot of calories. Mm-hmm. It's not a lot of carbs at all. So you got to eat a lot,
It's true. Yeah.
And then I'm putting a full peach on it for some extra carbs, a full chicken breast for some protein.
Yum.
And a little olive oil balsamic vinegar for some fat.
Oh, that's my favorite.
So you're getting all the macros.
Mm-hmm. All the macros. Yeah, see, that's not a term that I understood until today when our guest, Kelsey Beckmann, who is a registered dietitian, started talking about macronutrition and micro. I don't know what that means, but Jenna does because Jenna's a CrossFit goddess.
No, I just know about these. Yeah, from CrossFit, basically. Everyone talks about macronutrients, which is your protein, carbs, and fat. And that's where you get your calories from. So those are the things you need to really pay attention to.
Who knew?
Who knew? Kelsey knew, and she's going to tell us about it. Kelsey, thanks so much for joining us today on Completely Booked.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. So we want to know a little bit about you. So you've been an athlete kind of your whole life. When did you start competing in sports?
So I actually originally started as a soccer player. From a very young age. My older sister played soccer, and I remember I was 3, which is 1 year too young to play organized soccer. And so I remember my mom one year just saying, hey, we're going to sign you up, and you're going to have to tell everybody that you're 4. And we're going to say that we forgot your birth certificate at home.
Oh, no.
And I remember just going to my sister's games, and every time I would get really upset that I had to watch and she was playing. And so that's where kind of my first athletic love lied, was as a soccer player. I ended up playing collegiate soccer. I played at Campbell University, a really small Division I program. And then my sophomore year, I suffered 9 concussions, which is a lot.
9?
Soccer is so horrible for concussions. You would never know, but yeah, oh my gosh.
Yes. So after that happening, I just spent the majority of my sophomore year kind of sidelined, and I realized I was dreading going to practice and not playing, sitting on the sideline. And so I transferred back to University of North Florida, where I just went to school for the first time. I wasn't an athlete of any sort, and that's where I found running, just a kind of supplement for the time that I had and to meet new friends and that kind of thing.
Oh my gosh, 9 concussions. Did you have to wear that little headband thing that they make you wear?
Yes, it was. And I was the only one on my team that had it. And so, and those were I'm young, but I'm not that young. Yeah. Those were new at the time.
Right.
And so I was one of the only players that had one of these headpieces. So people thought that it was just like a fancy headband. I don't know.
Wait, I'm unfamiliar with this. What does it look like exactly?
It's like a big brace for your head.
Oh my gosh.
And it's not it's not aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah. So it's super Vogue, very stylish.
No, it screams like this girl has had a brain injury.
Oh no.
Yeah. So were you just an aggressive player, or you think you're more prone to concussion? How do you think that you got so many?
Right. So I think the nature of the concussion is once you get one, it's kind of a domino effect. It's easier to get them because you're just so volatile to injury after that. So my first one was bad. I had never had one playing for, now I've played for 15, 16 years. And after I got one, it was just such an easier, downward spiral to have another one. So
man.
Gosh, I remember the soccer girls. I played a sport in college as well, and I remember all the soccer girls just concussion after concussion, sitting in a black, dark room, not being able to play for weeks, and then Oh, I can't imagine. That sounds horrible.
I mean, that's what I did in college too, but I didn't play a sport. I was just sitting in a lot of dark rooms,
so literary,
just reading. So I would have fit right in.
Along with the rest of the literature majors.
Exactly.
In the back of the library.
I don't know who they were, but they were probably in dark rooms too.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's awesome. And so you also own your own business now, Meteor Nutrition, right?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So Meteor was inspired. I knew I wanted to be a dietitian as soon as I realized kind of the role of food in our body as athletes. Because again, kind of growing up in the 90s, being an athlete, it was kind of ignored. It was not really, I got Snicker bars after I played. I remember my parents had a deal with me. If I scored a goal, I got a Snickers bar. And I thought that was absolute, like, that
Love
meant,
that.
yes. But it wasn't talked about and how it can enhance your performance. And I think as I was going through school, I even saw it as a gap. I thought I'm a Division I athlete, and we don't talk about nutrition. We go to the strength room. We do all of this cross training. We obviously go to practice and all of these things, but why aren't we talking about the food that we put in our body? And I thought my nutrition was really poor. So that's when I kind of became interested. So I went to school for nutrition. I started off in the clinical sector. So I worked in hospitals and alongside doctors, nurses, occupational therapy, physical therapy, to kind of collaborate with other providers to take care of patients. And I knew that that was really just to get my feet wet, that eventually I would want to transition into sports nutrition. And I worked for another practice for a little bit, and I found that working with the other practice, I got a lot of really good experience. I worked with other dietitians, but I had this, through my running, this other community of athletes that had this need that I felt that I could reach them a little bit closer and connect with them a little bit more. And so that's really what inspired me to open my own practice. So it's mostly sports nutrition. I do work with other people and get a few random things, especially having experience in the hospital with more medical issues, but mostly sports nutrition at this time.
Yeah, and so you do like kind of personalized nutrition, one-on-one nutrition, that type of thing?
Yes, you nailed it. It's individual nutrition, just to make sure that people are getting their individual needs met, because there are all kinds of nutrition information out there and it gets very confusing. So by the time athletes come to me, they're like, please just tell me what to eat. What do I do? Yeah. And if you went through my documents on my computer, you would find 10,000 different types of meal plans, just because everybody has such different needs, and what works for one person doesn't necessarily work for the other person.
So give us like a little overview of how you kind of personalize this for each person, since we are all so different. And like you said, I mean, is it based on training and like how much, how many hours a week and stuff like that? Give us a little overview of how that works.
Yeah, absolutely. With everybody, I start with an initial assessment, and I'm assessing what are their goals? Like, why are they coming to me? There has to be one reason that's driving them to like find me on the internet or connect with me in some various forms of communication. So what is that reason? What do they want to accomplish? And then I kind of work backwards. So it's assessing their health status. Do they have any background history? Do they have any food allergies? And then I'm looking at, that's kind of the boring stuff. And then I'm looking at their schedule, their day-to-day schedule. What is their training load? How many hours of training are they putting in? What types of training? What's the intensity and everything? And so I'm trying to pair the foods that they tolerate and they like the most. I think people try to ignore that right now. They're trying to, really just stay with, well, what's the most healthy? And I think that people look at health different ways. They have different views of what healthy is. But I try to make all of that work together, because I really do believe that food should work with us instead of against us. And so if I can find something that satisfies their body, their mind, their activities, then I feel that I'm really doing my job well.
Yeah. And you mentioned that everybody has a different definition of what healthy is. What is healthy to you?
I think that when I look at the word healthy, I look at it from like a holistic approach. Is it something that is improving our health? But people, are so quick to demonize food now and ingredients and that kind of thing. Well, a lot of times I get the question, this is the perfect example, is should I be buying all organic foods? And maybe if you can afford that without being stressed out. But guess what is really, really unhealthy? Stress. So if we're stressing out about can we afford these types of food, and if it's something that you're struggling to do and it's causing pressure and stress and that kind of thing, then that's no longer healthy for you. So it has to be something that's within balance and within your reach and realistic, but also nourishes our mind, our body, and kind of covers the basis.
What do you think are some common mistakes that people make in regards to food?
I think that what I see in my clientele a lot is that they're not necessarily thinking about what health is, like what are the results they want in the inside. They're thinking so much about aesthetics. And so a lot of times I hear people say, well, I want to do this workout this way without this type of nutrition because it's going to cause me to lose weight really fast.
Right.
And so I think that sometimes bringing them backwards and really identifying the reasons they became an athlete in the first place really opens their eyes to, okay, if I can step it back and look at why I'm doing this, then it kind of shifts. I think a lot of times too, people think of what they can cut out instead of what food can do for us. So it's like if I cut this out, or if we take this away, instead of I'm going to choose, for example, this source of complex carbohydrates because it makes me have a lot of energy, and I want to have a lot of energy doing what I love to do, which might be swimming or whatever various activity. So I think that that's a big thing. If we can make that shift of what food can do for us instead of saying, well, it has yellow 6 in it and that's carcinogenic, then I think that, we can start to move in the right direction.
Yeah. And what's some advice, like say someone wants to start eating healthier and like just don't know where to start. What kind of advice would you have for them and where they could start?
Yeah, I think that, it kind of just depends what their goals are. And if their overall general goal is, I want to start eating healthier, I would really, really encourage them to look at the overall nutritional density. And what I mean by that word is when we're eating, what's the quality of the macronutrients? So that's our protein, carbohydrates, and fat, the things that actually make up calories. What does that look like? And then how many vitamins and minerals, which are micronutrients, does something have in it? So let's say, can we just increase that? Maybe the person doesn't eat any fruits or vegetables during the day. Maybe, the goal for the average American set out by the FDA is 5 servings. Maybe they're at 1 serving. Maybe it's just increasing it. It doesn't have to be a whole diet overhaul. It's just about improving over time.
Yeah. I've done a little diet type thing, experimentation. And I found too, like in counting macronutrients and kind of paying attention to that, they don't eat enough. And I feel like that can be the case for a lot of people, is they're just like not getting enough nutrients, which isn't fueling their body. And so they're not really, I don't know if this is really how it works. So they're not subtracting anything when they're doing their exercises because there's nothing to burn off.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that's really paying attention to what you're putting into your body can really open up your eyes to what you're eating and how much you're eating.
Yeah, it's really, really insightful sometimes to log your food and just look at, how was I feeling when I ate that? When did I eat that? What kind of activities did I do? Because that can be really eye-opening. And even as a professional, sometimes I have to go back to the drawing board and do that for myself. Nobody has perfect nutrition. So yeah. I think that that's really helpful for a lot of people.
And what are some of your favorite cookbooks? We love cookbooks here on Completely Booked. We want to know what you like.
I love cookbooks too.
Awesome.
The reason is because there's so many recipes available online, but you kind of have to know what you're looking for when you're searching a recipe, right? You have to search the right thing.
Yeah.
Cookbooks is like, oh, I didn't know I was looking for this, but here this is.
Exactly.
Right.
And it's tested and ready to go.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I love cookbooks. So in sports nutrition, my favorite one right now, it's called Run Fast, Cook Fast, Eat Slow.
Love that.
Yeah. So it's a second version. The first version was Run Fast, Eat Slow.
Okay.
And what I thought about that was it was amazing. It was put out by one of Olympic marathoner Shalane Flanagan, and she partnered with another nutrition professional to write this book. It was awesome, but it was very complex. So the one thing that I've learned about working with people is they want practical and fast.
Yes.
So if you're telling them to buy ingredients that are A, expensive, and B, you're not going to use for any other recipe in your life, then they're probably not going to do it. So
Right.
people were really excited about this first version, and they might make one recipe, but I slowly started to see, like, even my clients not even reference that book anymore. But this new version, I like it because they have really, really practical recipes for the athlete. It's things that you keep in your house. Like most people keep the standard foundation, like oatmeal and, those types of things that are nuts, those that you want to keep in your back pocket or in your pantry. So that's what I love about this cookbook. Really easy to use. So it's a good one.
Yeah, that sounds great. Any other favorites?
There's another one, and it's not one that's athlete inspired. But what I love about it is it's just called Homegrown. And what I love about it is the very beginning, it just breaks down the basics and it talks about why we need the foods that we need in the beginning. Because I think a lot of times, we think that nutrition is basic information a lot of times, but I think a lot of us need a review of why we're not excluding major food groups, what they do for our bodies. So I would say that would be why.
That sounds great. Because, you see, like, I don't even know if the food pyramid is, like, a thing that people abide by anymore. Is it?
No, we have My Plate. Now we have My Plate.
Okay.
The complaint
so
about
backwards.
It's the plate. So the idea was the pyramid was you would see, like, okay, the section with the grains, but people weren't necessarily able to extrapolate, like, okay, now how much do I put on my plate?
Right.
With My Plate, it became more real because it's a plate and people were able to, carry that over a little bit better.
That makes way more sense because it would say, like, what was it? Like 6 to 8 servings grains, 4 to 5 servings
Yeah,
vegetables,
people are like,
that
tell me
kind
in
of stuff.
sandwiches what that means.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Right.
Yeah, so the plate kind of sections off how much of your plate should be of these. Is it, how many groups is it? 3 different?
They have a dairy, protein, grains, and then fruits and vegetables.
Okay.
So obviously now the dairy one's a little bit controversial.
For sure. Yeah. I don't eat dairy, so
right.
that would be a hard one to put in there. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, let's not get stuck on that one. But they do have a section on that. But before it was just like, what layer of the pyramid was it? So it was super, super hard to identify with.
Right. For sure.
Yeah. And what are some people, want to hire a dietitian. What are some of the benefits of hiring someone to kind of get your nutrition on track?
That's an awesome question. I love this question. And I was really passionate about this when I first came out of school, and now I've kind of relaxed a little bit. But if you're hiring a registered dietitian, what that means is that they got their bachelor's of science and then they went through an internship program, which is kind of like a residency for dietitians. You do a clinical rotation. I did a sports nutrition rotation, food service, and then a community one. And then that's about a year long. And then you have to pass a national board. It took me about 3 months to study for mine. And it's a really competitive process. So you've kind of been through the ringer. Now to call yourself a nutritionist, and there's a lot of great ones out there, what I've learned over the last few years. But it's kind of a joke. I have a shirt that says my cat calls themselves a nutritionist because anybody can call themselves that.
Of course, yeah.
And so that's not, I think that nutrition, while it's not any kind of brain surgery or anything like that, it is something that working with someone that's going to follow safe guidelines and has a lot of experience is really beneficial to everyone. So I think that making sure that a dietitian can kind of, like I said in the beginning, go through that assessment process, kind of take you as an individual. Also, in the state of Florida, you have to have a registered dietitian license to work with any medical complexity. That doesn't mean that it always happens. So if someone has asthma, guess what? It's illegal for you to work with them.
Interesting.
Yes. So that's not common knowledge. A lot of trainers and that kind of thing are working with people. And my stance right now is I've kind of relaxed a little bit. I'm like, you know what? If they're helping that person eat healthier, but there's a lot of few little medical things that not everybody knows if you're kind of just jumping into a weekend nutrition course and then trying to help someone that has really, really complex issues.
Yeah, I could see that being a little dicey, trying to help someone that has kind of a medical issue. Interesting.
There's a lot of gray areas.
Yeah.
For sure. Mm-hmm.
And in addition to your work as a dietitian, you're also a runner. Yes. And on top of that, a marathon runner. Oh my gosh. Tell us a little bit about this and when you started and how you started running.
Yeah. So right after I transferred back to UNF, I started to run because I just wanted to stay in shape. And then it was a way for me to meet friends because I moved away from Jacksonville and then I came back. And when I came back, I felt like the city had changed, had grown, and I'm like, where's my friends? So I started working while I was going to school, and a lot of people at that job, they were running and being active in the community and that kind of thing. And so I signed up for a 50K. That was my first race ever.
Whoa.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know at what point I was like, let's just bypass a 5K. Let's go right to the 50K.
And here I've been bragging. I've been bragging all year so far. Like, I'm going to run a 5K this year. I'm going to do it, y'all.
No.
I'm going to be so fast.
That's awesome and sensible, so I applaud that.
That was the right move.
Thank you. It means
That's
a lot
definitely
coming
the
from
right
you.
move. Yeah, so somewhere along this 50-kilometer course through the Appalachian Mountains, I decided...
What? Hang on. It wasn't even flat Florida.
No.
You went to the mountains 50K. What is that in miles?
31.
That's longer than...
That's so long.
That's longer than a marathon.
That's so long.
Oh my gosh. What were you thinking?
I don't know. I wanted new friends, and my friends invited me. It was a lot
Kelsey,
of
That's what
get
they're-
out of here. You're
those
not
are
welcome here anymore.
not
That's
good
insane.
It was a lot of peer pressure. And then I ended up like not even knowing if I was going to be able to finish while I was training for it. And then on that course, I'm like, I love racing people.
Well,
And
good.
so I finished way before my friends.
Oh, wow. So it worked out.
It worked out well. And so I kind of
Wow.
got that bug. Like, I want to sign up for other races. I love this. It's another way. I was really missing that competitive environment that soccer had for me. And so I started racing a little bit more. I got a coach. And it was really funny because I was going to the University of North Florida and jumping into some of these collegiate races too, like cross country, track, that kind of thing. And I was racing my teammates and they were like, why don't you just join the team? What are you doing?
Yeah.
And I just loved the idea that I could work and go to school and I could race when I wanted to race. And then it's just, worked out for me. And I kind of found it was like a second chance to be an athlete kind of for me.
I have a question that I've always wanted to ask someone that runs marathons. This is so weird. But what happens if you have to go to the bathroom or something while
I've
you're
always
running?
wondered that too.
This is such a long race, right? You're running for what, two hours or so?
Yeah.
Are they porta potties and stuff?
There's porta potties. I mean, if people don't want to lose any time, then
No.
Yes.
Don't say it. Don't
They
say it.
will.
Catheter while running?
no, sure.
Good,
If that's
okay.
what you want to
Thank
believe, that it's a
goodness.
catheter.
Oh my God,
But
no.
there's a reason why you see a lot of black shorts.
No. Oh my gosh.
So it just depends how committed to improving your time you are.
Man.
Yeah.
Because
I don't have that in me.
I imagine people just hopping off at a coffee shop, going potty, grabbing a drink, getting a banana, and then going back out there and running again. But gosh, people are crazy.
Maybe that's what they did during the Donna run. They ran into Southern Grounds really quick and
Yeah. grabbed a bite,
got some
shot of
protein
espresso.
going on. Yeah.
Oh,
What if you get hungry?
You eat during the race, and that's actually what I do a lot in my practice is fueling plans for during the race too, based on what their it's mostly carbohydrate and electrolytes that I'm trying to get in them while they're running. So a lot of times, depending on their fitness level, how fast they're running, their height, their weight, all of that stuff, I'm tailoring a race fuel plan for them.
Okay.
So they just carry it in a little fanny pack.
Some of them, so a lot of them, the sources of nutrition are, modulars is that it's really, really small. So you can fit them in zipper pockets. A lot of ladies like to just shove it in their sports bra because it's really convenient. It's easy to get to. During the race that I just did in December, they had bottles set up along the course for a certain group of runners. So it was really nice because I could just grab a bottle and keep going. And I use little craft bottles that you can find at Joann's Fabric. So after I was finished with it, I could just, throw it, that kind of thing. So
Okay.
Interesting. Sorry for those probably ignorant questions.
No, that's what the listeners want to know.
Always been curious.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're also a qualifier for the 2020 Marathon Olympic Trials.
Yes.
Who can say that? That's
What is
insanity.
this? What is this?
First of all, congratulations.
yeah,
That's
okay.
huge.
Sorry,
Yeah.
congrats.
you.
Congrats for sure. Okay, so how do you qualify for this, and what does this mean?
Yes, that's a really good question. So for women, the qualifying time for the marathon is 2 hours and 45 minutes.
That's so fast. Holy cow. That's going to be my 5K time, I think.
Sure, it's not.
No, it's
Get out of
not.
town.
Okay, so 2 hours, 45 minutes.
So fast.
Okay, that's
Please
really
take an
fast.
Uber if that's really your 5K.
Yeah, I'll come pick you up, Hurley.
Thank you, Jenna.
So yeah, as long as the course is regulated and everything, and I've had my eye on doing that for a little bit. And the first time I tried, I was in my internship to become a dietitian, and it was just a lot of work hours, a lot of studying, that kind of thing, and not a lot of sleep going on. Ironically, I consider myself the most unhealthy version of myself while I was trying to become a dietitian. And I failed. I think that just not having enough rest and then trying to fly out to California and qualify, it just didn't work out for me. So I kind of spent the last few years working on the things I needed to. And I think just having more of a stable job and a regular schedule and more years under my belt as a runner really helped me this time qualify.
So cool. That is so cool. So what's the next step? What do you do now that you've qualified?
Yeah, so the trials are in February 2020, and they're in Atlanta, which is really nice because my family members can come. They don't really travel a whole lot, and so they don't necessarily, they grew up with me being a soccer player. So like when I get done with the race, they're like, but did you win?
Yeah, what happened?
And I'm like, no, but I ran the fastest I've ever ran. And they're like, you came in what place though?
Yeah.
No, but
That's
it's a
basically
personal
last.
best. Yeah,
Um,
that must be a hard thing about running is like
Yeah.
the autonomy of it too,
Yeah.
because it's like a personal best. But
Right.
like you said, maybe other people don't get what that means.
Right.
Yeah.
And you tend to run faster when people in front of you are running faster. So
Right,
it's almost
right.
better like to get into a situation where you're going to not come in first. So it's nice because my family can go, and you know, Atlanta is not out of the question. So the location of the trials changes every year or
Okay.
every time there is trials, which is every 4 years.
So like if you qualify, so you've qualified for trials. If you qualify at the trials, you will go to the Olympics.
Yes, but that
What?
there's about 200 women that will qualify for the marathon standard in the U.S. and 3 people get on the team. We're actually one of the only
Wow.
countries that does it this way. It's kind of excessive, the amount of people that they have qualify. So I'm looking at it as an opportunity to run in a really cool competitive environment. I would imagine I'll probably be at the bottom 10%, but it's a really cool experience
Oh my
regardless.
gosh.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's like one step away from going to the Olympics. So that's a really high honor. That's insane.
Thank you. Thank
That's
you.
so cool. And so, what do you think your athleticism has shaped you? How do you think it's shaped you as a person? You know, through all these crazy endeavors, the 50K to begin with, soccer in college. How do you think this has kind of shaped your life?
Lying about your age.
Yeah, that's how it all started.
You were an
I
actor.
can barely talk.
Yeah, you were an actor before you were an athlete.
pretty much. No, I think that's a really good question because I think that it makes you really resilient, and it also makes you kind of roll with the punches a lot. That's like the biggest thing that I think that soccer, you know, from a very young age, you know, the first time I didn't make a team, my dad had to tell me like, look, like the other girl was better than you. And that's something real that happened. Like you weren't cheated, you weren't this, like the other girl was better than you, and that's okay. And so I think that, you know, kind of being in an environment that kind of teaches you, you can work really hard and sometimes you don't get it, but even like failing, if you keep trying and keep showing up, sooner or later things are going to work in your direction. And then even like going through the concussions, and right after the trials I had a little bit of a foot injury. That's challenging because you can't do the one thing you love to do. I think that also it kind of teaches you and appreciate the process of doing anything, that it's not always linear success, it's not always seamless, but slow and steady and keep chipping away at things can help you out a lot.
Yeah, I think those are some lessons that we've almost kind of lost in this, you know, participatory ribbon society that we live in now, that everyone's a
Definitely.
winner, you know. So some of those kind of hard lessons learned as a, you know, even as a younger person, I think are so valuable today that we've almost kind of lost. Because I learned those lessons too as a, you know, as a kid. I played softball and soccer and all kinds of stuff, and it really did help me, you know, help prepare me for the real world, you know, like, oh yeah, you have this college degree, but you're still going to have to work really hard to get that job. You know, it's, you know, still took me several months to find a job. So those resiliency and all those lessons are so important.
Yeah, I will say I'm really involved with high school sports, and I think that it's probably a little bit of a different ball game than when you and I remember, you know, going home and telling my parents about practice or something like that. And being involved with high schoolers now, really good athletes. They have access to so many things, which is awesome. But also, you know, the involvement of them, you know, not necessarily dealing with their own challenges. I think that that's a little bit different now. So that's one thing that I hope that it'll be interesting to see how the next generation, you know, how they handle any kind of adversity.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
Interesting.
Yeah, and we have one last question for you. We want to know, when you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
That's a really good question. I think I wanted to be Brandy Chastain from the moment that she scored that goal. And I think I was her for Halloween at least 6 times until, you know, I switched to Gwen Stefani. But before when I wanted to be,
models.
I think the 1996 women's team really, really spoke to me a lot because it was like one of the first experiences in our society that like women as a collective team were like kicking butt and
valued for kicking
valued
butt.
and it's still a fight for, you know, for them to be compensated, and that's a whole nother discussion. But I wanted to be a soccer player, and so
That's awesome. I remember several of my friends wanting to be like Mia Hamm and all the other ones from that team. I played that like backyard soccer game on, I think it was a PC game. I don't remember, but I was always Brandy Chastain.
of course.
Yeah. Oh, so cool. Well, thank you so much. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about where they can find you on your website, social media, if they want to get to know more about Meteor Nutrition?
Yeah, so meteornutrition.com, really easy to find me. And then with Instagram, I'm meteor_nutrition. And then Facebook, same thing. It's just at Meteor Nutrition.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming. This has been so fun.
Yeah, thank you so
Thanks,
much for having
Kelsey.
me.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, Hurley, I did not get a chance to ask you about your food. So what do you eat?
It's fine.
What's your nutrition like?
Well, Jenna, I'm glad you asked. I am a lady who loves food. I've been trying to eat better, like we all have, you know. I'm not a big salad lover, but I'm a smoothie lover.
Okay.
So I have a green smoothie pretty much every morning.
Nice.
That's the bougiest thing about me, probably.
Yeah.
But I love it. Like I put some like pineapple in there and like a cup and a half of spinach and some organic juice.
What about?
And obviously a banana, because I believe you can't have a smoothie without a banana.
agree.
Otherwise it's just mush.
I agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about you put a scoop of protein powder in there?
So I have, in addition to my green smoothie, I'll have a piece or two of whole grain toast with like so much peanut butter on it.
Okay, that's pretty good.
That's what I do for protein. It's probably not the best, but peanut butter is in my top 3 favorite foods.
Oh, I love peanut butter.
Yeah. Top 3 foods: peanut butter, French fries, and popcorn. What are your top 3?
Popcorn. Yum.
I love popcorn so
Okay,
much.
I love peanut butter. I love chocolate. Not
Yeah.
really a food. Let me think. I always got to have a good banana.
Okay.
I love bananas.
That's 3. You gotta stop.
Oh, man, there's
You gotta
too
stop.
many.
I know.
I'm thinking like of all the other things. Sweet potato fries.
Oh, yes. Just kidding. You don't have to stop. I'm much
Burgers.
more into the savory than the sweet. I've always been that way.
You think?
Yeah.
I'm 100% addicted to sugar. I'm just gonna
Really?
admit it now.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just like, after every meal, I'm like, man, what kind of sweet thing can I have right now?
Yeah. See, I get
That's
that
my
way
downfall.
around Girl Scout cookie season because I love me some Thin Mints, especially if they're frozen.
Oh, see, I'm not a big fan of them frozen. I like just the regular crunch.
Okay.
Yeah.
I respect that.
I like Girl Scout cookies though.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was really fun. I liked Kelsey a lot. And especially like having that same kind of athlete background, it was interesting to see. And I can see how a soccer player would go into to be a runner, but most athletes I know hate running. So it's interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting. Why do people hate running? Because it hurts?
Yeah, I think so. And like people that are athletic are normally competitive and like,
True.
you know, like
True.
that team spirit. And so running is very much a personal, you know, on your own, long, monotonous, doing the same thing.
Oh yeah, it's super autonomous, and that's what Kelsey was saying too. She tells her family like, I got a personal best, and they're like, what place did you come in? Like that's not what it's all about, you know?
Yeah. So it is different in that aspect. So I think that's why a lot of athletes like don't really love running that much.
Okay, that makes sense.
And maybe too because there's not a lot of glory in it either. Like you were saying, that you don't get the big, you know, the big finish to win the game or whatever.
Well, unless you get to run through the ribbon, isn't that don't run? Is that a thing that only happens in movies? I've never been to a race.
I think so. Yeah. Nowadays, you just run through like the little portal that like
You don't get to break a ribbon with your body,
No.
but that's what I've always wanted to do. That's
Well, I'll bring one to your 5K.
I'm not gonna run anymore if I don't get to run through a ribbon
You just ruined your running career.
and throw your arms up in the air.
Yeah, that's movies.
I'm gonna have to ask Kelsey about that one. I'm sure she's run through a couple ribbons in her life. Man, the Olympic trials though, that's so exciting.
So crazy. That's so cool.
Can you imagine
No.
being an Olympian?
No,
I certainly can't.
I can't.
I would have no business doing that.
No, none whatsoever.
What would your Olympic sport be? Well, probably volleyball, right?
No, curling probably.
Curling? Okay. Okay. Love that.
Very fascinated with curling.
Yeah.
What about you?
I mean, curling really swept America like into its arms.
Pun intended.
Love it. I would be an alpine skier.
So winter
games.
games.
Yes. Oh, I'm all about the Winter Olympics. But I think, I don't know, there's nothing more powerful looking than going like 100 miles per hour down a mountain. That just sounds so amazing.
So scary.
So scary.
You can also check out those books that she was talking about from the library. Run Fast, Cook Fast, Eat Slow by Shalane Flanagan is at our library. And also Homegrown by Matt Jennings is on Hoopla. You can stream it anywhere, anytime,
Do it, people.
as long as you have a library card.
Indeed. Make sure you follow us on all the social media at Jack's Library. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And while you're on the internet, visit our podcast page, jackspubliclibrary.org/podcast. And we'll be linking to those cookbooks Kelsey mentioned.
Yes, also subscribe to our show. Leave us a rating and a review.
Yes, please. We'd love it if you did. This podcast was produced by Brian Thomas, a.k.a. BT, a.k.a. Producer Brian. Goodbye.
Roll it.
Rolling.
Got it going, Brian.
Do it again. I loved it so much.
No, it was on there.
Rolling.
Rolling.
Oh, there's one for the after. Stop messing with that.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Stop yelling at me.